suppose I'm glad to get the opportunity just to maybe outline what the REALT teams are and what they're doing. And I promise I won't hold you too long because I'm conscious of the time here. But I suppose just before I was asked to do this presentation, I remember that the war happened, or it started on the 24th of February, which is not even 9 months ago. 2 weeks later, or less than 2 weeks, the first refugees arrived in Ireland. And I come from West Clare, and St. Patrick's Day, which is the 17th of March, which is still within a month, I met my first Ukrainian people who had arrived in the west of Ireland, having travelled right across Europe. So it happened so quickly, the whole thing, from when we saw tanks rolling in CNN on the 24th. There was an all-government response. And in fairness, I think we should be proud of it as a country. And the Department of Education took one piece of that, which was the whole idea of, well, what can we do in supporting it from an educational point of view, looking at the services that were there, and they decided to form these REALT teams, which are regional education and learning teams. I suppose the role that they set at the time was, the primary role was to build existing regional education support structures. Its initial focus being to assist the families in securing school places. And just saying, REALT has supported schools in the region to meet this need for children as they emerge by advising and supporting the department in developing new capacity where required and in coordinating the provision of educational services to schools and families across their defined areas. It has ensured that there are clear, accessible information flows in place between schools, local educational and support services and national support structures in relation to Ukrainians. One of the key things here is that it's not a new structure, or it doesn't have any authority in its own right. It's just purely a coordination service to try and utilise all the different stakeholders who are already out there doing the job. The last thing we need is another, if you like, structure in place. So it's actually, it's there to support. And it's broken down into, there are 16 different areas which happen. Some of you may know the ETBs are broken out normally into 2 counties, but there are 16 of them in the country. So it was decided to have a REALT structure across those 16 ETBs, and there would be a REALT coordinator. That's the only additional post where they would actually try to work in coordination of the teams. The majority of the REALT coordinators, to be fair, have come from the educational system. They're retired principals, many of them are that, however, who are definitely not doing it for the money. They're actually committed and have come in, and because of their knowledge, both from primary and from the post-primary sector, and their contacts, I think they've been able to do a lot of, if you like, the practical work on the ground of actually just building up good communication across the sector. So just to show you on the team, like who the team is made up of, the different areas there. TESS, as we said, are members of it. The NEPS regional personnel, school transport inspectorate, the NCSE regional personnel, and the management bodies, and have put forward local nominees. You also have, like, if you look under that, school transport and other sections of the department, schools, there's schools at local areas, or many of them have joined the team, or they can have representatives. The English language support arrangements, this is the ESOL or whatever. The accommodation centre, we can have accommodation, it's flexible. The local authority coordination structures, there's a linkage there. The REALT coordinator is part of that, and vice versa, the local authority can feed into it. And other partners as required. One of those that has emerged, which is the local development companies, which are doing a lot of work. So it's a structure, it's there, but it's not rigid. It allows at local level to get that communication structure across the different areas. I suppose the REALT has been tasked or whatever, and this is coming from the department, and I think it's the motto was that the focus for Ukrainian students, including students with special educational needs, was to support them in placing them early in a school setting and giving them the opportunity to settle in. This has been the intention of helping them to adapt and adjust to the new environment, new home and new school. And that continues to be the driving force. We have had to understand and come to terms, for example, for the Ukrainian children and for their families, it's very important to maintain the links with home. There's a lot of schools back in Ukraine still provide online services and education, so they want to remain and have that contact. Not easy for schools, and some of you here who are from school will know that, trying to find a balance and how to facilitate that while still running the curriculum. Some people may want to even choose to actually full-time go online and work with it, but the real, I suppose, what we're encouraging on the ground and when we meet parents and meet people is to get them into the school settings for the integration point of view, because I think it's a key part of them settling into the country, if you like. School enrolment, and I just want to stress this, at the end of the day, the enrolment of students remains within the remit of individual schools, and the school, and the success of, as Thomas said, of 12,000 and over 12,000 in schools, it's not some magic REALT team or any other structure. It's the actual school communities that have made this happen, and they have the authority, and they remain so, and the whole is how they recruit and take people into their schools. But the REALT coordinator will provide a one-stop service to stakeholders within the process. We provide information to Ukrainian parents and guardians on the availability of school places in the area where they've been located. We work with the school principals by providing them with the information of the number and age of Ukrainian students seeking school places in their area. Information that's been difficult, as Tomas again said. The first instance is to find accommodation for them. So the Department of Children and Youth Affairs, who have been tasked with that, they just, when people arrive, it's get them in. So sometimes we've very little pre-knowledge of what numbers are arriving where. We work with the Department of Education, with NCSE and management bodies, etc., in the development of local solutions to local issues. And there are some great examples, that it's not perfect in any way, but if you wanted to do case studies on, even the utilization of a bus or something, there has been some great things have happened because of that local connections. The capacity planning is an area that, obviously this was, again, you're talking about 12,000 students coming into the system, and there was available capacity in the Irish system. Particularly there was some in the primary, but also in the secondary. But it was to identify where was that capacity and to try and balance it. And the department have a GIS system which it can be is utilised to map out the numbers in schools and where the schools are and what availability they have and what potential they have to take on additional capacity. And they also, what they have had on, plus the surveys that they carried out with the schools, has given very accurate information on that capacity. And the difference being now that access to that has been given to the 16 REALT coordinators. So be you any of the stakeholders in CSE or whoever is part of that team can avail of that knowledge at local level and can actually just see, and it helps in making the decisions and to see, and we can highlight now and saying that there are towns that are actually totally full, that there aren't any available places in schools and whatever. And we're trying to get that information to the Department of Children and Youth Affairs before. Now, they may not be able to use it because they have to take the priority as Maslow's hierarchy. That the first thing is shelter. So this gives, as I stressed, the whole idea that all members of the team have access to the reports and can be utilised and worked with. School transport, and a number of people, particularly anybody that's dealing with SEN, it's always been an issue, but it's been a traumatic year in the whole transport system. The provision of suitable school transport has been a major challenge. The direct contact between the local teams and the Department of Education and Transport, together with assigned bus éireann representatives on each REALT team, has facilitated in the development of a range of local initiatives and solutions. And it definitely has, but if you're one of the people that it hasn't resolved it for, it doesn't make it much better. And I know that for the REALT coordinators, as it is for the CNOs and for others, it takes up so much time just trying to work on this and work on it, and it's an ongoing thing. But I would support greatly that the REALT team, and actually having the bus éireann representative on that team, and also we're looking at maybe access to the bus éireann system through the REALT directly, that we can have contact. There is potential, and it is the one way that you can get improvement is at local level. Supporting children with SEN. So it's envisaged that the majority of Ukrainian children with SEN will continue to enrol in mainstream class settings and access existing supports in schools. Additional special education teacher, that SET, and special needs assistance resources have been allocated to support this initiative. And while NEPS continues to provide a range of supports to teachers, we talked about that with special education needs, and there's been a lot of support and even just digging out and re-emphasising all the support and information that is there has been very much part of it. I suppose the one thing I would say from a department point of view, or the sense that is maybe just to stress is that, and people talked about the front loading, and the importance of it. To be fair, with this huge number just hitting you, there is no way that, for example, in seniors over that you could do full assessments all the time away just to try and make it happen. So there is a front loading of additional supports, and the department has provided on a temporary basis additional set supports to schools who have a large number of Ukrainian students enrolled in line with the table opposite. So in other words, if you have 10 Ukrainians or more, you get 5 hours, going right up to, if you have over 60, you get 25 hours. And that actually is based purely on your registration of the pupils. You don't have to go and reapply wherever. That information will be sent to the NCSE, and NCSE will issue with a letter saying you're entitled to that much. So that's it's a front loading just to get the initial piece of support there. And again, on the same thing on the SNA side, and you're talking, sorry, I should have said on the SET side, it comes directly from the department. On the SNA, it'll be issued from the NCSE. Again, you see the kind of time. If you have, for example, over 65 there, you will get 3 SNAs to support that within the school. And that equates to, like, there is, and I just got these figures, that there has been, to date, there's 2,682 set hours, which is, a substantial 120 full-time teacher posts, if it was, that has been assigned there. You have 139 SNAs, which have been assigned and given to, I suppose, assigned to the sector based on the numbers. Where children present with complex problem and needs, and it's very easy to sort of take the high level and sort of say, but that doesn't resolve. And you do have issues where you have a school where you maybe have only 1 or 2 people who come to the school. They have the problem, so they need to be assessed and they need to get the support. So the additional set and SNA allocation is designed to provide an adequate support for a high percentage of the Ukrainian children requiring additional support. And as I say, however, there will be specific cases where a child requires additional support, and in such circumstances, the assessment and allocation of support resources will be carried out by the CNO in the normal manner and treated the same as any other child within the system in Ireland. And as I say, the principle, I know this is one of your own, which is that students with special education needs have an individualised assessment which informs teaching and learning and forms one part of an ongoing and cyclical process of assessment, intervention and review of outcomes. I suppose I want to stress that the front loading of the numbers, whatever, is just an attempt to help or support. It's in no way to try and change the system that's there or to try in any way circumvent it. What have we learned? I think this is for myself, but the provision of a vehicle which provides all educational stakeholders at regional level quick access and clear communication channels between themselves and the Department of Education has been a game changer. You may not, it works better in some regions than others. That's human nature. It's building up, it's working. But where it works really well. And it's an opportunity, it's that opportunity that a lot of people who, you work within your own department, or section of a department, or you work within your own organisation, and you may not be aware of what's happening or what the potential supports are around. And even the linkages outside of education, like the local, for example, the local bodies that are out there, and there's a lot of support in the case of the Ukrainian support. There's a lot of NGOs and people like that who are working on the ground, and the potential to link in with that kind of stuff is invaluable. But it's very hard to get that sort of linkages on your own. But at least if there's a group that you can, and particularly with the online way it works, that if once a week or whatever, that REALT team is meeting and you can link in and you say, oh God, you hear something from one of the other, you have an opportunity and you have a direct link in there, and that has been helped dramatically on the ground. I think for the Department of Education, a direct two-way communication channel with key education stakeholders at regional level has enabled them to react to specific issues in a targeted manner. And that it's not just somebody, it's very difficult, everybody's looking for something all the time, but if you can come back through a coordinated thing and sort of, this is feedback from the REALT team, and there's a number of different stakeholders verifying that this is really the issue here, and all of it, it does give the department the confidence to, yeah, actually this is something that we need to get involved here and to deal directly with. Going forward, the REALT teams were established, as I said, less than 9 months ago, so it's not like with a plan that it was to run until the end of December of this year. Due to the continuation of the war in Ukraine, it's likely that the teams will need to remain in place for 2023, and to going forward. There are, I'd say, over 10,000 applications for international protection in Ireland compared with the 3,000 or 4,000 from previous years. And there's 50,000 plus Ukrainians currently staying in Ireland. This trend is continuing to grow, and we talked about this in the years ahead, it looks like it, and the integration of students from the refugee cohort coming into the country will remain a challenge for the Irish educational system in the years ahead. So, be it REALT or be it whatever you want to call it, but the need for a regional support and cooperation across the board, I think, is more than relevant. And perhaps it's also an opportunity to look at that way of working and look at how it can support other cohorts of students within the system. So it's a simple concept, and I just want to say that the student and the guardian, they want education, they want integration, they just come in and they do the thing. The school is there, and the school's role, it's like the cogs in the wheel, is turning to actually support and get the student to do that. And when I put up REALT, I really see there all the other provisions of the state should really try to work in unison to help support the school as they rotate in a way that will bring. So it's not trying to intervene or get in the middle or anything else. It's how do you provide the supports to the school to allow them to ultimately, it's the guardian and it's the student that they're the people that matter. So I believe it has a role to coordinate and assist in building clear communication channels between all stakeholders across the Irish system in complementing existing services, not setting up or developing an alternative personnel support structure. It provides a vehicle for practitioners within the educational system to integrate and communicate with the broad range of stakeholders involved in the provision of support to specific student cohorts. As its regional structure, it has proven its ability to be flexible in finding local solutions to specific school capacity issues. So basically that's it. Just thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, we'll take them after us. Thanks a million.